Hi guys, welcome to Chris Horner's Corner, where, as you guys remember, if you pay attention to the channel, I had gotten crashed back in middle of August of 2024, and my Specialized Tarmac had gotten broken at that day. Little dent back on the down chainstay there, as the crank arm had got pushed into the frame, so it dented the frame. So now it's time for a new Tarmac. So I'm over here at Sagebrush Cyclery, and this is their warehouse because Sagebrush Cyclery in Bend, Oregon do both skis and cycling. So since we're in January over at Shearshaw's, which is Sagebrush, they have moved everything over to the ski area, and now I'm at their warehouse right now as we're going to meet up with James, the owner of Sagebrush Cyclery, and he's going to set up my new Specialized Tarmac that I got and kind of compare it to my 2013. So we'll give you guys, sorry, not a 2013, it's a 2017, 2018 Tarmac. And we're going to show you guys a little bit of comparison between the old model Tarmacs and the new one. And of course, the new Specialized is out there with a lot of the other bikes too. All the differences have started to change with the bikes, with everything going more and more aerodynamic. And of course, everything getting faster and the bike equipment getting faster. As we'll see, we'll talk about the saddles, we'll talk about the frame a little bit. And right now I'm dropping off the old bike so that James can set up the measurements on the new bike, and then we'll come back later when everything's set up and pick up the bikes. We'll of course give you a detailed story video of what we like about the new bike compared to the old ones and get more in detail with that. So right now let's head on into the shop here over at the warehouse of Sagebrush, and we'll meet up with James as he talks a little bit about the bikes. Specialized clearly has changed their whole bike setup from what we're looking at this bike as a 2017, 2018 Tarmac, and now of course we're talking a 2025 Tarmac. But what's the big difference is clearly the saddle, the bars. What else are we looking at when we're changing the different sizes or the different years, and everything's gotten better besides aerodynamics, right?
Right.
Right.
I'm noticing like even the stock wheels are going to be a lot deeper dish. But still about the same weight. Of course, they're going to be hookless, tubeless. We'll probably set you up with tubes because I know that with your training, tubeless can be a problematic.
Yeah, well, we got lucky in that aspect with these because Specialized makes all theirs with a hook, and you can run them tubeless or you can run them with tubes. These ones actually come with tubes, but they told me when I ordered it through Specialized that you can run either or, no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they run their rims with hooks.
Yeah, some of the companies actually went back to hooks after they were seeing them blow off in a lot of the races.
AKA Tadej Pogacar style at the Giro Stage 2,
Yeah.
right? We don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. No.
So, crank length, of course crank lengths have gotten shorter and shorter, so just checking to see what the stock is on this one. Most likely, so it's your crank length, 172.5.
So 172, but now these come with the power meter, you were saying?
Yeah, so this is
onto
going to
it?
have the built-in Dura-Ace power meter. So they originally were, Shimano purchased the Pioneer system, and then they incorporated the 4i system. So it's kind of like two different people's technology all built in. And the 3D printed saddles are nice because they can really create zones of pressure. And so instead of being just kind of the old school, piece of plastic or a piece of carbon stretched with a bunch of leather over top, now they actually have multiple zones that flex in certain ways. Yeah. And the idea behind it is it's both more comfortable, lighter, and it'll actually produce more power.
Yeah, there you go. We like lighter and more comfortable. So that's how these bikes are trying to find more speed for you. And we see the European peloton, of course, going faster and faster. And in January, when I was down in San Diego doing the Swami's ride, every time when I'm training with these guys on new bikes versus when I was on 2013 year bikes, even in the Super Tuck when I'm right behind guys, I'm getting dropped because their bikes are going a little bit faster than mine. They're in the Super Tuck, I'm in the Super Tuck. We're not even going through corners, and I was just getting gapped off from guys when they're in the Super Tuck, and I'm in the Super Tuck behind them. And there's a P5 Cervelo up there, there's a Factor bike up there, and they're literally just pulling away from me, and I had to make up big efforts just to even close the gaps on downhills afterwards. And it's not because I was hitting the brakes, guys. I'm not that old yet.
Well, another big change is that you see, and basically every bike company that you look at these days is kind of fallen into the same mold. And in fact, you're going to see more and more aerodynamics with UCI loosening the regulations on it. But like this is considered a non-aero, almost climber's bike, but it comes with an arrowhead tube, aero forks. You notice how the stays are substantially lower, airfoiled out, and then of course an aero seat tube on top of that. So even though it's still kind of considered more of a, you know, a do-all leaning towards a climber's bike, although they do have a pure climber's bike, this one's going to have a lot of aero effects while still being light, probably really close to the UCI minimum when we built it up.
There you go, trying to go faster everywhere. So I'll let you guys go. We'll come back in with another video later, but those are some of the differences between the older generation bikes and the newer generation bikes that are coming out, which is making the Peloton over in Europe just that much faster. All right, so we're back over at Sagebrush. Got James next to me, the owner. He's going to tell us some of the little differences between the older generation S-Works that I was riding that was crashed in the middle of August versus the brand new one, the SL8 that I got here. And so the biggest thing that I noticed right away, as you were telling me, is that you can work with your Garmin up top here and stuff with the two buttons and flip through your screens or change your gears up there too. And everything's working more with your phone when you're trimming the gears. Before, you'd set the button right here and then you can trim your rear up here and down here on the right side of the lever, but now you're telling me that's completely different.
Yeah, with the newer Di2 stuff, it's what's known as a semi-wireless system. So like the shifters don't have any wires that run down to the battery anymore. There's no central unit like there is on the older version that basically everything had to run down and come together. There is still wiring in the back end of it, so the derailleurs both hook into the battery, which is located in the seat tube still.
So no cables from here dropping down. Now everything is just going to be the battery that's placed here, and then the battery sending the cable to the front derailleur and the rear derailleur?
That's how it's all set up.
That's how it's all set up, and then wireless from here to the battery.
The other big change is it used to be that the battery itself was the brain of the whole system. Now it's actually the rear derailleur. The rear derailleur has all of the electronics, the whole brain systems in the rear derailleur. And so it kind of commands everything else. And as you mentioned, there's now a Bluetooth app that's used to adjust all the shifting, do all of the firmware updates. You can adjust your buttons. We talked about some of the shifting options where they have standard, synchro, and semi-synchro, which is how the front derailleur reacts with the rear cassette. So basically it'll shift the front derailleur merely by using the rear shifting, or you can have it set up so that the front derailleur will shift and then shift the rear derailleur a couple cogs, which is kind of, as we've learned over the years, you know, we have a certain way to shift to make everything work right, and now it's basically become automated for people who haven't figured all that out on their own.
And everything's going to work a lot more with the Garmin that's coming soon too, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the other nice thing is the whole integration between different brands, Garmin especially, that's allowing them to do things like power meter calibration before you go ride to make sure it's always calibrated and you're always getting the exact numbers you need, as well as, of course, mapping functions and everything else that you want to get out of it. And then it seamlessly downloads to Strava or whatever else you're using.
And of course, rim brake and disc brake. Some people are going to love me and hate me after that. So old style rim brake over there, disc brake here, a little bit of different modulation feel in the levers between the rear and the front at the moment. That's always gonna stay there, or this is gonna break in some, like you were telling me, on each side.
Yeah, just, I mean,
How's the disc brake going to change everything for me? Give me a rundown on that for everybody. So there's
So-
going to be a lot of you out there changing the disc brake sooner or later.
right. If you haven't already, you're going to have to soon, because most manufacturers don't even make a rim brake bike anymore. The most dangerous time in the peloton was the transition period. And it was because there's such a difference between the braking power of a rim brake versus a disc brake, especially in inclement weather, that what you would see is when it was mixed in the pro peloton, the braking differences were causing crashes. And
For
you know,
sure.
there was a lot of there was a lot of you know, kind of kickback from the riders. It was like, well, we don't want to do this, or it's a weight penalty. The safety of the rotors themselves getting cut on them. And so now technology has really pushed forward, where now that everybody's on disc brakes, the braking's all the same, and so the safety's back again. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue with disc brakes on a road bike is the fact that on mountain bikes, you got all this traction on your tire. And so when you hit the brakes, that tire is going to hold on to the ground, and you know, you can stop so fast you can go over the bars if you want. When it comes to road bikes, the friction between the tire and the road surface, especially on a wet day, can be lower than the friction between the braking. And so what you end up doing is skidding your front or rear end, and especially the rear end. And so as you're learning to use disc brakes, you need to learn that it's really important to feather the brakes, to put a lot less power into them, because all you're going to end up doing is locking them up and skidding.
And of course, it's hard to pick that up right away on the bike if you're in some kind of gravel or wet, slippery roads. You can't pick it up if it's the brake causing it or the tire starts to slide. You can't feel it right away. So that's why you see all the back brakes lock up on guys, and they kind of high side a little bit at first until they realize that, oh, I got too much brake on.
Yeah. And there's definitely a break-in period. I mean, it's just like rim brakes. Rim brakes hardly changed at all. There's a little bit of taking some material off so everything lines up right. When it comes to disc brakes, there's a lot more technology to it. The big misnomer is that, you know, you're grabbing a metal surface and that's stopping you. What's actually happening in disc brakes is the pad material is getting transferred to the rotor, and then it's the pad material that's like on like that actually causes your stopping power. Yeah. And so as you progress your first 20 to 30 miles, you're going to get more and more pad material built up, and so your braking power comes up and comes up until it reaches, you know, what it's going to be. Because of the hydraulic lines, of course, you're going to have some hydraulic line break in. Most of the systems these days have some leeway for air bubbles and stuff. But especially with the Shimano systems, they do prefer to be bled more often than, say, a SRAM system.
Yeah. How often should I expect to do that?
Generally, you're looking, on a road bike, it's not nearly as much as mountain, but generally you're still looking, like when they're brand new, you're going to probably want to bleed them within a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
And you'll get that last little bit of air in the system out that hides in the corners and the caliper and things like that. After that, it's about a once-a-month process. Once a month, you're going to want to just throw a cup on. It's a super straightforward system. It's about a 5-minute process to do it when you have the right tools. And what it does is it just takes that little bit of air out of the system that's created from the fact that the calipers are pushed in slightly more. There's less brake material. Mm-hmm. And as your pads wear, it creates flex in the system.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, there you go. So we're going to take the new bike home, ride it, and then I'll give you guys some feedback on it. Thanks, James, for all the help. Sagebrush,
Absolutely.
if you're in Bend, Oregon, they'll take care of you for all your bike stuff. And, of course, they do skis, too. That's why we're at the warehouse today, because they got the bike shop all set up as skis and all that stuff for everybody skiing up on the mountain right now today, because they got like 100 inches up there, right?
Still have 100 inches, yeah. The snow's good, and more coming this weekend finally.
Yeah, so ski and bikes, James's place to go, Sagebrush. See you guys if you're in Bend, Oregon. Make sure you drop by and say hi. And I'll test out the bike and give you guys some feedbacks. Thanks, James.
Yeah, absolutely.